thinking that he was just another ignorant and fearless kid. Su Hong took another step forward, his shoe pressing down on the grass as he exited the tunnel. A bright light shone ahead. He stepped out of the dark passage and into the wilderness, where tall trees stretched out in every direction and sunlight spilled through the leaves above him. Su Hong stood with determination in his eyes. He tightened his grip on his sleeve, and thought to himself that he must return with a full haul. 2 hours later, the forest around him was quiet. Sunlight filtered through the leaves as he walked deeper among the trees. He looked around and realized that he had not seen a single fierce beast. He wondered if all the beasts near the forest outskirts had already been hunted. He leaned against a tree with confusion on his face, holding his water bottle. Question marks hovered above him as he tried to figure out the situation. A moment later, he decided to head further inside. His body shot forward in a leap, speeding deeper into the forest. Su Hong rushed forward through the forest, his breathing sharp as the wind whipped past his face. Sweat formed along his cheek as he heard a sound ahead of him. A moment later, a white wolf, with glowing red eyes, burst through the trees. The beast lowered its body and growled, its claws digging into the dirt as it prepared to attack. Su Hong stopped and faced it cautiously. He looked at the creature and recognized it. According to his textbooks, this was a Tier 1 lower stage fierce beast, the Shadow Moonwolf. He thought to himself that this was the first time he had ever seen a living one. The wolf suddenly roared loudly, saliva flying from its jaws as it lunged toward him with its fangs bared. Su Hong tightened his stance as the beast leapt at him. Its crimson eyes locked onto him while it howled. The attack came down from above, straight toward Su Hong. Su Hong stood still as the fierce beast lunged at him with its claws extended. The wolf's red eyes glowed with killing intent as it swung its massive paw toward him. The wolf's attack cut through the air, but Su Hong dodged it by leaning back. The beast missed its strike. Lightning gathered around Su Hong's fist. His hand glowed with bright golden energy as he clenched it tightly. He stepped forward and struck the wolf with a powerful blow. Lightning exploded across the wolf's body as the impact sent it flying backward. The wolf crashed into a tree, rolling across the forest floor while letting out a weak howl. Su Hong then stood over the fallen beast. Lightning still flickered around his arm as he looked down at the defeated wolf lying motionless on the ground. Su Hong then looked at his trembling hand with bright eyes. He wondered if this was what fighting monsters felt like. It was even more exciting than he had imagined. His fingers shook as he remembered the battle. The feeling made his heart race. He clenched his fist with confidence. He thought to himself that he could now kill a Tier 1 initial stage ferocious beast in a single move. He wondered how he would perform against a Tier 1 middle stage ferocious beast. While he was thinking that, 2 glowing red eyes appeared quietly in the forest behind him. The next second, a huge figure stepped out. The scene revealed a Tier 1 middle stage ferocious beast, a raging black bear. The bear roared from behind him as Su Hong stood calmly with his fist raised. A powerful strike flashed across the darkness. In the next moment, the raging black bear collapsed with its eyes rolled back, beaten in a single blow. Standing over the fallen beast, lightning still flickered around Su Hong's arm. He thought that with his current strength, as long as he didn't provoke a Tier 2 beast, he wouldn't face too much danger. Finally, he crouched beside the defeated bear with a smile. He held up the bear's ear and thought proudly that 3,000 prize money was secured. A blue system window appeared in front of him. It displayed a reminder saying that his accumulated martial value was now enough for him to break through into a martial artist, and he should upgrade as soon as possible. Su Hong looked at the screen with excitement. He thought that he could finally break through and become a martial artist, but suddenly he felt a very powerful aura behind him, shocking Su Hong completely. He turned quickly, sweat covering his face. He looked toward the forest and sensed the pressure coming from afar. He thought that the aura was extremely intense and wondered what kind of ferocious beast it was. He decided to go take a look and rushed through the forest at high speed. He landed on top of a large rock and looked down. His eyes widened in shock as he whispered that this was. Before him stood a massive creature. A glowing description appeared, explaining that it was a Tier 1 late-stage ferocious beast, Black Jade Giant Python. Below, 2 men were fighting the python with their weapons. The python struck them with its giant tail. The men used their shields to block, but the python's power was too much, making them spit out blood with just one attack. The python's massive tail smashed into both of them, sending them flying backward. Their bodies slammed into a rocky wall, breaking the stones on impact. From a distance, Su Hong watched the scene with widened eyes. Suddenly, shock flashed across his face as he stared ahead. The python lunged again. It swung its tail with incredible force, aiming straight at Su Hong. The ground cracked apart as the huge tail cut through the air. The beast's body twisted sharply. Its tail curved like a giant whip, moving faster than Su Hong expected. He gritted his teeth, thinking it was too fast, as the python's attack came crashing down. The giant python's body smashed into Su Hong, sending him sliding across the dirt as dust exploded everywhere. Nearby, dark blood splattered across the stone. A weak voice coughed again and again, the sound mixed with the shaking of the earth. Su Hong knelt down, covering his mouth as he coughed blood. In front of him, another man lay motionless, his body torn open and stained black with blood. He wiped the blood from his lips with the back of his hand. His expression stayed calm even though pain filled his body. Reaching forward, he grabbed the fallen man's spear and lifted it from the ground. He quietly said that he would borrow it for a moment. Then he stood up again and faced the enormous python. The python rose high into the sky, its golden eyes glowing fiercely. Wind whipped around them as it hissed loudly, towering over him. Su Hong held the spear tightly and stepped forward to face the beast. The giant python opened its jaws wide and rushed forward with a roar, its sharp fangs flashing as it dove down like a falling mountain. Su Hong dodged aside just in time. The creature's massive body slammed into the ground, sending rocks flying everywhere. In that moment, Su Hong quietly recalled something. Normally, killing a Tier 1 late-stage ferocious beast required several martial artists working together. But he was different. All of his martial skills had already reached perfection. With that level of mastery, he had easily killed the Tier 1 middle-stage raging black bear before. Because of that, he believed he now had the strength to fight the Black Jade Giant Python directly. He dashed forward with incredible speed, his footsteps leaving white streaks behind him. His body spun through the air, avoiding another strike as the python whipped its tail, using Void Step. Perfect. He closed the distance in a blink. The massive python lunged again, jaws wide. But Su Hong's eyes stayed calm. Blue light burst around his spear as water-like energy gathered and wrapped around the weapon. He raised the spear and unleashed his technique, Raging Sea Spear technique. Perfect. A powerful wave of blue energy burst forward as his spear swung down, carrying the force of crashing tides straight at the python. The giant python's massive body twisted violently as the golden spearhead pierced deep into its scales. The impact sent shockwaves through the air, and the beast let out a furious roar. Its jaws opened wide in pain, revealing rows of sharp fangs. Su Hong moved swiftly, stepping across the python's body with quick, precise motions. Each step left a sharp mark on the ground as he moved toward the spear. His hand tightened around it, gripping it firmly while power surged along his arm. Blue energy swirled around him, wrapping his entire body in a flowing, water-like aura. He lowered his stance, spear ready, eyes sharp and focused. With determination burning in his expression, he whispered to himself that he would strike again, one more time. With full power, he threw his spear at the massive python. The weapon shot forward like a beam of light. The giant python whipped its massive body forward, but the blue energy slash cut straight through its attack. Su Hong's spear pierced the python's body as it roared in pain. Enraged, the giant python swung its massive tail to attack, but Su Hong moved at extreme speed, circling around the creature again and again as faint blue trails followed behind him. He thought that the difference in their size was too great. Landing a fatal blow in a single strike would be difficult. He decided he had to weaken the python as much as possible first, then wait for the right chance to finish it. Just then, the python's tail swept toward him. Seeing this, Su Hong raised his fist, and a surge of bright energy formed around it. He used his Thunder Rush fist, perfect technique, as his entire arm shone with crackling power. He launched himself forward, delivering a powerful strike that sent waves of lightning bursting across the battlefield. The ground shook as the giant python's tail whipped across the battlefield. After landing a successful strike, Su Hong quickly leapt back, widening the distance between himself and the massive creature. Dust rose behind him with each step as he prepared his spear again. He reminded himself that after every attack, he needed to back away fast. Only by keeping his distance could he avoid being crushed by the python's huge body. The python twisted angrily, its scales scraping against the ground. Su Hong stayed alert. He told himself to wait for an opening, attack again, and then retreat right away before the monster countered. The constant movement tired him, his breath grew heavy, and sweat rolled down his face. Still, he knew this method kept him safe. He exhaled as he steadied his stance. Across from him, the python trembled. Its growls grew weaker. It seemed to be nearing its limit too. Seeing this, Su Hong realized he only needed to circle it a few more times and strike carefully to bring it down. He gripped his spear and called out in determination, ready for another round. But just as he prepared to move, something caught his attention. A sudden sound behind him. Su Hong sharply turned his head, his eyes widening as he sensed something approaching. He demanded to know who it was. A large masked man suddenly leapt toward him from above, laughing loudly with a flaming fist raised. Su Hong quickly lifted his arm to block, gritting his teeth as the flaming punch crashed down on him. The force of the attack sent him flying across the ground, rolling until he came to a stop. He pushed himself up with difficulty, coughing as he tried to regain his breath. When he looked up, several figures were standing in front of him. He shouted, asking who they were. The man in the long coat stepped forward, surrounded by his group. It was the White Fox. He looked down at Su Hong with a confident smile and told him that they were meeting again. He then asked Su Hong to hand over the black jade giant python. The group of 5 stood together on the rocky path, watching the injured Su Hong kneel in exhaustion. His spear lay stuck in the ground beside him, its blade cracked from the earlier battle. White Fox stepped forward with a calm smile. His eyes narrowed slightly as he recalled the moment he saw Su Hong leaving the city alone. He said that when he first witnessed that reckless decision, he was certain Su Hong would die somewhere outside the city walls. He spoke again, amused. He admitted he never expected Su Hong's luck to be so strong. Not only had he survived, but he had even managed to encounter a critically wounded black jade giant python, one that was already on the verge of death. Hearing that, Su Hong stared at him quietly, realizing that if they thought he had merely found the python, that meant these 5 had just arrived. He observed them carefully. All 5 were martial artists. He realized that they had the numbers advantage. Fighting them head-on was impossible. Suddenly, the large masked fighter stepped forward aggressively. He shouted at Su Hong, asking if he hadn't heard young Master Ye's words. He demanded to know why Su Hong was still standing there when young Master Ye wanted the giant python for himself. Hearing that, Su Hong lowered his head slightly. His fists clenched. His jaw tightened. He said nothing, but his body trembled with anger. Su Hong glared forward, electricity crackling around his fist as he spoke. He said that they had only pushed him back earlier because of a sneak attack, and he asked if they really thought he couldn't defeat them. In the next moment, he shot forward and slammed his glowing fist into the masked brute's punch. The impact exploded outward, sending the large man flying. The brute's eyes widened behind his mask as he felt the force of the blow. Shock filled him as he thought about the terrifying power striking him. Su Hong didn't stop. He rushed in again, his fist flashing with red light, and struck the brute hard enough to knock him into the ground. The remaining group stood in the distance, watching their fallen companion lying in the grass. None of them moved. Then White Fox stepped forward slightly, looking at the scene with interest. With a slight smile, he commented on the attack. He said it was an excellent Vajra fist, and confirmed that Su Hong was indeed the Minotaur. Hearing that, Su Hong turned his head sharply, his expression tightening when he confirmed that it really was the White Fox mask. White Fox stood calmly, with his hand covering part of his face. His voice was smooth as he spoke. He said that Su Hong was the first person to humiliate him in front of so many people. He then dropped his hand and gave an order. His voice was cold as he commanded his subordinates to kill Su Hong. All 4 men around him rushed forward at once. Their weapons drew streaks across the ground as they charged towards Su Hong. Su Hong reacted instantly. His hand tightened around the spear, and his body shot upward in a single motion. Behind him, White Fox's group shouted to chase him. They sprinted after him as he leapt away from the rocky cliff. Deeper in the forest, the group slowed down, scanning their surroundings. Dense trees and scattered sunlight surrounded them as they searched the area. One of them shouted, asking where he went. Another warned that the woods ahead were thick and easy to ambush in, telling everyone to stay alert. The masked man with brown hair looked ahead as he walked through the forest. He scoffed and said there were so many of them, wondering if they were really afraid of just one man. Just as he said that, suddenly, a blur shot past him. Su Hong moved at incredible speed. The masked man's eyes widened as Su Hong dashed forward. Su Hong's eyes glowed with a sharp blue light as he closed the distance. In the next moment, he struck. The masked man was smashed into the ground with overwhelming force. From Su Hong's punch, 9 continuous sounds echoed in the air. Blood splattered across the man's mask as he lay motionless on the forest floor. Farther back, White Fox watched in shock. Sweat slid down his face as he stared at the settling dust clouds left behind by Su Hong. He cursed under his breath, unable to hide his disbelief. He wondered how Su Hong could possibly be this fast. White Fox's remaining 3 men stood together. One of them suddenly shouted in shock. He told young Master Ye that the technique being used by Su Hong was the Thunderclap Fist, specifically the 9 Echo Thunderclap Fist. He added that even rank 3 martial artists couldn't train the Thunderclap Fist to perfection. Hearing that, White Fox's expression twisted in frustration. He snapped at them to shut up. Sweat slid down his cheek as he stared ahead in disbelief. He couldn't understand how Su Hong had perfection in the Vairara Fist, and now perfection in the Thunderclap Fist. He questioned how any of this was even possible. Up in the trees, Su Hong watched them from above, staying calm as he observed the group below. He quietly thought to himself that if he hadn't just fought the giant python and consumed so much vitality, he could have crushed all 3 of them head-on. Since he couldn't confront them directly now, he decided on a different approach. He decided that he would have to defeat them one by waiting for the right moments. Thinking that, he threw his spear, but he didn't attack them directly. He threw his spear onto the ground right behind White Fox's group. It was meant to distract their attention, and it worked. As everyone turned to look at the spear, Su Hong made his move. Before White Fox's men could react, Su Hong appeared right in front of one of them. Blue light flashed in his eyes as he reached forward with a swift, precise motion. The man facing him froze, shock spreading across his expression as he realized he had been targeted. Su Hong kicked the man in the face. His strike landed with explosive force, sending blood scattering as the man's head snapped back violently. The impact launched the man's body into the air before it crashed onto the ground. Nearby, the remaining attackers turned in shock. One of them stared at the fallen body with fear spreading across his face, while another looked nervously toward his leader. One man shouted that Su Hong was too strong and urged White Fox to retreat, but White Fox refused. He glared ahead and demanded whether they were joking, insisting that he would kill the boy today. A blur of motion cut through the forest as Su Hong dashed between the trees. His speed left streaks of blue light trailing behind him. The attackers could barely react as Su Hong appeared again and rushed straight toward them. In the next moment, another attacker was struck so hard that his body flipped upward and slammed into the ground, shaking the forest floor. White Fox clenched his teeth in frustration. Sweat slid down his face as he stared ahead. He cursed under his breath, wondering how Su Hong had grown so much stronger in just a few days. Just then, a blur shot past him. Su Hong rushed forward with incredible speed, closing in from behind. White Fox immediately spun around, eyes wide, but Su Hong was already gone. Leaves scattered in every direction as the ground shook from his steps. White Fox shouted in anger, repeating his frustration again and again. In the next moment, Su Hong appeared behind White Fox again, saying it was finally his turn. But little did he know, White Fox had already detected him. White Fox immediately turned and raised his arm, blue light gathering around it. Energy sparks shot outward as he charged forward, shouting and telling Su Hong not to think he had already won. White Fox thrust his glowing finger upward, shouting the name of his technique, Void-Shattering Finger. Seeing that, Su Hong raised his spear to attack, but his senses warned him that it was dangerous. He bent down and dodged as the blue arc of energy sliced across the forest with incredible force. The blast struck a nearby tree, instantly blowing a massive hole through its trunk. Bark and dirt exploded outward as the tree shook from the impact. The entire tree burst apart, collapsing under the force of the attack. Across the forest, White Fox thrust both hands forward, using the same Void-Shattering Finger technique again and again. Blue beams shot from his glowing fingers in every direction, filling the air with intersecting streaks of light. Su Hong jumped around the forest, dodging all of it. He watched White Fox with a sharp gaze. Sweat slid down his cheek as he assessed the attack's power. He noted that the martial skill wasn't weak, its level seemed high, possibly Class B. Then White Fox glared back with rage twisting across his face. He screamed that he had memorized Su Hong's face. He shouted that if he was injured today, he would kill Su Hong's entire family once he returned. This was White Fox's biggest mistake. Hearing the threat, Su Hong's expression darkened instantly. Blue light flashed across his eyes as White Fox's words rang in his mind. Su Hong sprinted through the forest. He zigzagged through the trees, leaving trails of destruction in his path. Ahead of him, White Fox glared nervously. He held up his glowing finger and shouted that his uncle was a supervisor at the martial artist base, and that his father held even higher status. But before he could finish, Su Hong appeared behind him. White Fox's eyes widened with fear as he sensed him closing in. Su Hong appeared behind him with lightning-like speed. Red light crackled around his fist as he spoke calmly, saying he preferred White Fox when he was acting arrogant a moment ago. His punch connected instantly. White Fox's face twisted as the blow sent him flying, blood spraying from the impact. Su Hong didn't stop. With one more sweeping attack, a red arc cut across the air and smashed into White Fox again, throwing him violently backward as his body spun out of control. White Fox was sent flying out of the forest. He fell from the cliffside and hit the ground with a violent impact, sending dust exploding into the air. Thick clouds of smoke rolled across the rocky ground. Through the haze, White Fox slowly pushed himself up. He coughed and panted heavily as the smoke began to clear. Su Hong, surrounded by a red aura, walked out of the shadows. His eyes were dark and cold. He looked straight at White Fox and said that he should never have used his family as a threat. Blood covered White Fox's face and clothes as he struggled to lift his head. He asked why Su Hong was so strong, and said it shouldn't be possible. He panted weakly and stared in disbelief, saying the other wasn't even a martial artist. White Fox screamed, asking Su Hong what he actually was. Just then, behind him, a massive black python rose from the ground, its eyes glowing and its tongue dripping blood. Terrified, White Fox's eyes widened as he turned around after sensing the black python. Just then, the black python slammed its tail onto the ground with tremendous force, cracking the earth. Seeing that, Su Hong got ready to face the giant python directly, gripping his spear. He said he had spent too much time fighting the others. As the monstrous snake coiled and lifted its head, he realized it had already regained its stamina. On the other hand, White Fox's 3 men whom Su Hong had knocked out before stood in the forest, shaken and confused. One of them muttered that Su Hong, whom they had fought, was far too strange. Another looked around anxiously and wondered where young Master Ye had gone, asking if he had already finished off Su Hong. Suddenly, the man in the red jacket lifted his head, alerted by a sound. Before they could react, they saw Su Hong running toward them from behind. He sprinted straight at them with his spear in hand. One of the men shouted that he would not spare him, while another yelled that Su Hong had finally come out, but Su Hong ordered them to move out of the way. Just as he said that, a loud rumble burst from behind. All 3 men froze when a massive python erupted from the ground, lunging toward them. Their eyes widened in shock. As the python crashed forward, Su Hong dodged aside, causing the giant creature to slam into the two martial artists. One of them screamed as the monster struck. A notification appeared, stating that Su Hong had indirectly killed an opponent martial artist and earned 30 martial value. A moment later, the python whipped around again, knocking the man in red into a tree. The notice appeared once more. Another indirect kill, another 30 martial value. Su Hong stared at the scene in surprise. He hadn't expected to gain martial value this way too, but suddenly, the giant python's tail swung across the ground and came toward him. Seeing this, Su Hong was alerted, a bead of sweat sliding down his face as he reacted to the sudden movement behind him. He thought to himself that after so many battles, his martial value was finally enough for him to break through and become a martial artist. With a powerful leap, he spun into the air. He moved with lightning speed, jumping from tree to tree, until he made a large distance between himself and the python. He wished he could find a safe place to break through. His eyes sharpened when he spotted a cave in the distance, deciding that he would choose that spot. He shot straight down toward the cave entrance as the serpent followed. As he entered, the massive python crashed into the cave entrance, sending dust and rocks exploding upward upon impact. In the dim cave, Su Hong landed on one knee with his spear pressed against the ground. Dust and rocks fell around him as the giant serpent crashed down, its glowing eyes locked onto him. The python lurched forward, its jaws opening wide as it dove straight at him with a violent roar. But it couldn't enter. Inside the cave, Su Hong quickly pulled up his system status screen, while the serpent's body thrashed behind him. The python roared again as the system interface displayed Su Hong's information. Name, Su Hong, Vitality, 96, Spirit, 23, Physique, Mortal Body, 3%, Martial Skills, Raging Sea Spear Technique, Perfect Thunder Rush Fist, Perfect Vajra Fist, Perfect Floating Light Palm, Perfect Void Step. His martial value showed 504. Su Hong furiously tapped the Vitality stat on his screen, shouting for it to increase faster. Numbers flashed rapidly as Vitality rose by plus 0.1 again and again. A burning red aura erupted around him. Vitality surged through his body, making his entire frame tremble from the heat. Red light wrapped around him like flames as he gritted his teeth, thinking that it felt as if magma was flowing through his veins. The status screen flashed again, displaying that Vitality had reached 100. Red energy burst outward. Seeing this, the serpent stopped, its eyes widening as a wave of crimson power surged across the cave. A red notification appeared above Su Hong, announcing his breakthrough and that he had become a Tier 1 martial artist. Flames of power burst around him as he stood in the center of the glowing circle. He looked at his own body, feeling the heat rising from within, and said that he had finally become a real martial artist. His fist tightened, energy crackling around it as bright light wrapped around his arm. In front of him, the giant serpent shrank back in fear, sensing the change in his strength. Su Hong stepped forward, flames burning around his body, and told the serpent that it was now his turn. His eyes sharpened, and with a swift motion, he launched himself forward. His glowing fist shot straight ahead, tearing through the air like a beam of light. The python was using its whole body to crawl out of the cave, but a loud impact echoed when Su Hong's punch struck the serpent's body. The python let out a furious roar as golden energy surged upward, launching the python high into the sky. The giant serpent's face filled the panel, its scales cracked, and its fangs stained with blood. It let out a fierce hiss as fresh wounds covered its jaw. Su Hong charged forward with glowing eyes and a blazing fist. Energy sparked around his arm as he shouted the name of his technique, Vajra Fist. He leaped through the air, aiming straight at the serpent's open mouth. The enormous snake lunged upward, roaring as it extended its tail to attack Su Hong from behind. Su Hong met its tail attack head-on, blocking it with his burning fist. Red lightning surged around him as the impact exploded against the serpent's tail. Su Hong gritted his teeth. Blood trickled from the corner of his mouth as he pulled back his arm. He tightened his grip on his spear and steadied himself. He then drove his spear downward with full strength. Blue energy burst outward as he slammed the attack straight into the serpent's stomach, forcing the massive creature down with overwhelming force. A blinding column of blue energy crashed down the python's body onto the ground. Lightning burst outward on impact, making the creature roar in shock and pain. From high above, Su Hong descended with flames wrapped around his arm. His fist burned like molten fire as he shouted the name of his technique, Thunder Rush Fist. He dove straight toward the thrashing serpent. Su Hong's fiery punch slammed into the creature's skull, sending waves of sound force rippling through the air. The impact echoed through the forest. The serpent's head recoiled violently, as golden lightning swallowed it. Su Hong's attack smashed it downward, driving its head deep into the ground. The earth cracked beneath the blow, and the forest shook from the impact. Smoke and dust rolled across the battlefield in thick waves. When the dust slowly cleared, Su Hong stood firmly on top of the python's massive head. His red aura flickered as he looked down at the defeated beast. He noted that although the giant python had already been heavily injured, he was now strong enough to withstand its attacks directly. A glowing panel appeared beside him, confirming that his martial value had increased by 94. The enormous serpent lay motionless beneath him. Its threat finally ended. Su Hong then sat on top of the giant python's severed head, holding a knife in his hand. As he looked at the huge corpse beneath him, he muttered that hunting ferocious beasts normally required cutting off their left ear to exchange for money. But then he paused. The thought trailed off into silence as he stared at the massive serpent. Snakes didn't have ears. He wondered helplessly what he was supposed to do in this situation. After a moment, he sighed and stood up. He said it was better to forget it and head back quickly. The scene shifted to a distant view of the cliffside where he had first fought that massive python and white fox. His footsteps echoed softly as he approached someone lying bloodied on the ground. It was White Fox, but he was already dead after being crushed by the giant python's tail. Su Hong looked down at him calmly. He said that ending up like this, White Fox had gotten off easy. Su Hong then crouched beside the fallen body and began searching through his belongings. While checking his pockets, he wondered if he might find the high-level martial technique White Fox had used earlier. His hand paused when he pulled out a small booklet. The cover was worn, but the words were clear. He read the title out loud. Void-breaking finger. Later that night, as the massive corpse of the giant python rested motionless, something shone nearby. It was a small fire flickering inside a cave, whose entrance was covered by a wall of stone. Inside the cave, the warm glow of the fire lit up the rocks. Su Hong sat cross-legged with the void-breaking finger manual open on the ground. He calmly stated that he had already memorized the entire introductory method of the void-breaking finger, and the next step was to use the system to master it quickly. Soon, the surroundings shifted into a dark, digital-like space. Su Hong sat in the center and called out for the system to begin. In front of him, a glowing blue projection of himself slowly appeared. Training began instantly. Light beams surged around him, and a sharp force shot past his body as he practiced. He narrowed his eyes and continued. One by one, streaks of blue energy burst from his fingertips as he repeatedly used the void-breaking finger. His voice echoed as he shouted the name of the technique. System panels floated beside him, showing the mastery level rising rapidly, 51%, 63%, and 93%. Blue light filled the entire space as he continued to train, pushing the technique closer and closer. Suddenly, a faint blue screen flashed before Su Hong's eyes, showing a message that void-breaking finger had reached the basic stage. But before Su Hong could celebrate, a sharp beam of blue light shot into his forehead, causing his body to tremble. His eyes widened in shock. He coughed weakly, holding his chest as he returned to reality. He looked at the manual in his hand, and thought that, as expected of a B-rank martial skill, even reaching the basic level put heavy pressure on him. While catching his breath, he decided he needed to find a monster to test the technique's power. 3 days later, deep in the forest, a massive bear with glowing red eyes burst through the trees. The beast roared furiously as it charged forward. Just then, Su Hong stepped in, raising his arm. Blue energy gathered at his fingertip. As he released his attack, he unleashed the void-breaking finger, sending a piercing beam of energy straight into the bear monster. The bear was struck violently, its body shaking under the force of the blow. Su Hong stood calmly with blue energy swirling around his finger. He realized he had finally reached the perfect realm of the technique. He felt satisfied, thinking that its power was truly worthy of a B-rank martial skill. Just then, a glowing notification appeared, displaying that he had mastered void-breaking finger to perfect void-breaking finger. With the skill perfected, he lowered his hand and said that it was time to go back. The scene shifted to a large fortified compound, the martial artist base, where countless martial artists were gathered within the wide courtyard. The martial artist base was lively that day. At the exchange counter, a startled clerk counted the rewards and announced loudly that the total came to 230,000. The surrounding hunters murmured in surprise. One of them praised the Thunder Squad, saying they were incredibly fierce for killing so many beasts. Another muttered that this single harvest equaled several months of his own hard work. Just then, a little distance away, new voices rose in excitement. Hunters pointed out that this guy didn't bring back a single non-ranked beast. Every corpse he carried was a Tier 1 ferocious beast, and some were even high-stage ones. Those voices attracted the Thunder Squad's attention. Those voices were for Su Hong. He stepped forward with a large bundle. The clerk checked the records and read out the numbers in disbelief. 72 initial stage beasts, 83 middle stage beasts, and 17 high stage beasts. The total reward reached 406,000 blue star coins. The hunters nearby stared at him in shock. Su Hong lowered his gaze slightly, sweat forming at his temple. He wondered if he had hunted too many beasts and become too noticeable. If he had known this would draw so much attention, he thought he should have killed fewer. Just then, loud noises echoed through the base. A burst of force shattered part of the plaza, catching everyone's attention. Hunters gathered and stared at the destroyed area. People shouted in confusion. Someone asked how the base could be attacked. Another questioned how this was possible when so many high-level martial artists were stationed there. Su Hong stepped forward among the crowd, gripping his spear as he looked toward the smoke rising from the damaged building. From the smoke, a pale hand pressed against the ground, a faint glint of light reflecting off several metal rings wrapped around its fingers. A man in a suit stepped forward from the smoke-filled ruins of the base. His expression twisted with fury as he shouted for the base to be sealed, ordering that not even a single fly be allowed to escape. This man was Ye Qi, the person in charge of the base, and White Fox Ye Feng's uncle. His subordinates responded instantly, shouting their acknowledgement. Seeing this, another supervisor hurried toward him, panic visible on his face. He asked Ye Qi what had happened. Ye Qi's eyes burned red with rage as he answered. He shouted that his nephew Ye Feng, along with the 4 martial artists accompanying him, were all dead. News of the death spread quickly among the crowd. Several martial artists whispered in shock, wondering how Ye Feng could possibly have been killed and how an entire group of 5 could be wiped out at once. Some people muttered bitterly. One man thought that if not for Ye Feng's background, he would have killed him long ago. Another person said that everyone there had been robbed by Ye Feng before. More voices joined, saying the scourge had finally been eliminated. Hidden among the crowd, Su Hong stood silently, listening to their reactions as the discussions grew louder around him. Ye Qi walked forward, announcing in a stern voice that a B-rank martial skill found on Ye Feng's body was missing. He declared that all martial artists had to be body searched and cleared of suspicion before they were allowed to leave. Amid the tense crowd, Su Hong stood quietly with his spear. He observed the situation calmly. As he listened, he thought to himself that based on the corpses, it was obvious White Fox had been killed by the giant python, so the incident should not be traced back to him. From across the open plaza, the officials and Ye Qi gathered in a group. Their eyes scanned the crowd in suspicion. Su Hong noticed their focused stares drifting toward him. He wondered silently if they were targeting him. Suddenly, the people around him slowly stepped back, creating a clear path as the officials walked forward, led by Supervisor Ye. Their footsteps echoed as they approached directly toward Su Hong. Then Ye Qi, with a dark expression, stepped out from the group. His eyes glowed coldly as he spoke with a forced smile, addressing Su Hong as little brother. He said he had heard that Su Hong alone had killed ferocious beasts worth 400,000, and he claimed that Su Hong's skills were truly amazing. Ye Qi looked down at Su Hong and said he had heard that Su Hong had killed a ferocious beast worth 400,000 credits on his own. He called it impressive. A woman nearby stared at Su Bai suspiciously. She said he looked like a rank 1 early-stage fighter at best and questioned how he could possibly kill so many beasts. She insisted that he must have scavenged young Master Yi's belongings and ordered the guards to search him immediately. 2 suited enforcers stepped forward, flames burning around their arms. One of them warned Su Bai not to resist, saying things would get ugly if he did. But before they could touch him, Su Hong moved. In an instant, his spear was at one guard's face. The guard froze in shock. He asked Su Hong what he was doing. The guard was stunned because he couldn't even follow how fast the spear had been drawn. Su Hong then asked calmly if they truly wanted to search him. He reminded them that he was a student of Star City High No. 1. Hearing that, Investigator Ye Qi narrowed his eyes as he thought about the situation. He knew the principal of No. 1 High was fiercely protective of his students, someone no one wanted to provoke. But to him, Su Hong still seemed extremely suspicious. He walked forward with 2 guards beside him. He thought that if Su Hong truly hunted all those beasts by himself, then he was a genius, and if they accused the wrong person and offended him, it would become a big problem. Facing Su Hong directly, Ye Qi explained that his nephew had been attacked and their family's secret technique had been stolen. He said he needed to find the culprit and hoped Su Hong would cooperate. Su Hong replied calmly, saying he only hoped they weren't accusing the wrong person. Seeing Su Hong's attitude, Ye Qi got angry, but he offered 10,000 credits as compensation for the search. Su Hong raised his hand and countered with 30,000. In his mind, he reasoned that Ye Feng had been killed by a giant python, and as long as the technique wasn't found on him, they couldn't blame him. After thinking for a moment, Ye Qi agreed. He told the guards to search. Su Hong lifted his arms slightly and told them to check carefully, saying he didn't want any false accusations. The guards began searching through his belongings, while the woman searched his bag. Ye Qi and the others watched closely. One of the guards finished checking and reported that there was nothing on Su Hong. Hearing this, Ye Qi told his subordinates to give Su Hong the 30,000 credits and let him go. Hearing that, Su Hong let out a small sigh of relief. In his mind, he felt lucky that he had cleaned everything up earlier. Otherwise, he would have been in serious trouble today. As he walked away with his spear, Ye Qi, who was in charge, ordered the others to continue searching everyone. No one was allowed to leave until they were cleared of all suspicion. Su Hong left, thinking about his next steps. He planned to shower and change clothes first. After that, he wanted to go to the Martial Artists Association to register for the assessment. He needed to get a guidance technique as soon as possible. Later, he arrived at an underground hotel inside the martial artist base. Inside a quiet and bright room, he sat shirtless on the bed, with his status window open in front of him. He checked his stats and was surprised. He had accumulated 534 martial points. He realized he had been so focused on training the void-shattering finger and hunting beasts these past few days that he hadn't used any of his points. His status panel showed: name, Su Hong, vitality, spirit, 23, and physique, mortal frame at 6%. His martial arts were void-shattering finger at perfection, raging sea spear technique at perfection, thunderclap fist at perfection, vajra fist at perfection, floating light palm at perfection, and void step also at perfection. He also had 534 martial points. Su Hong remembered that a rank 1 early stage martial artist usually had about 100 vitality, while a rank 1 mid-stage martial artist had around 200 vitality.
Browser-based games are dead? Watch this.